Brilliant.
Brilliant. We've been doing this for a while.
So I wonder how long you've been listening to us. Here we are.
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, and everybody in between.
It is Thursday in Vienna, which means it's time for It Should Be About Something.
That's right.
And today is the 7th of the 7th, so it's 7722.
7722.
And it's episode number 70.
And it's episode number 70. It's episode number 70 on the 7th day of the 7th month.
So, yay for that.
That's it.
Ooh.
Here we are. Well, that was a struggle.
Yeah,
you know what?
It was like a throwback to 2019.
Yep.
2020?
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
2020. So, hey, everybody. Welcome to It Should Be About Something. This is the show where Michael Smolik and
Jim Libby.
And we talk about stuff. And we're excited that you're here. If you are here, say hi on the chat. We'd love to see who's around. And our first question is always, how was your week? So let us know how you've been since the last time we were around. The last time we were around was
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it was episode 69. 69.
It was
69.
It was about 69. That 69 thing.
So
very moist show.
It's been a while. Let us know what's been good, what's been happening, what's the story, Morning Glory.
What are your plans for the summer, for instance, as well? Yeah.
Okay, whatever. All right, let's try to review first before we get ahead of ourselves. In the meantime, Michael and I are going to catch each other up. So see you in a second. Michael, how you been?
You see this face? this face? It's a painted on face. Behind this face, my face is sleeping.
Take a look at that face. That face is just a painted on face, people.
It's a painted on digital face.
It's a painted on digital face. Oh man.
Yeah. My weeks are long.
Yeah.
And they lack lots of sleep.
What?
But they're pretty good. Pretty good.
Any highlights?
Well, this week the highlight is August, my little boy.
So cute.
He discovered that he has fists. He discovered that he has hands.
He's got fists of fire.
He spends ages going. Just doing this thing, which is
it's just he's ready to fight the world. He's ready to go for it. Yeah, man.
And he's
a rough, tough cream puff.
And he woke me up the other morning, and I bent over the cot, and he was doing this, and I bent over the cot, and he went,
"Did you give him a pound?
Look what I got."
Yeah, check it out.
So now we've been playing the fist bump game since
fist bumps.
I fist bump him, and he kind of goes.
I told you about Mariatella's little boy. And he'd be like, "Give me a pound," and he goes. It's the softest, gentlest, just coming in.
But
and
babies also have all that fat. All that soft skin and all that fat.
When they get those rubber bands around their joints and it all puffs up. Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Also this week, we went and met up. Cheers. I think we should slurp.
I think we need a slurpers.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, slurpers. Slurp, slurp.
Wow. There's a lot of vodka in there. And there's not much of that Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Stockholm Syndrome, what the hell is it? Bitter lemon. I'm drinking vodka and bitter lemon today because the Schweppes ginger ale I've had enough of it.
Untenable.
It's untenable.
Untenable, I tell you.
It's very sweet and not very satisfying.
I hope
And getting ginger beer in this country is not easy.
there's a big hole in the market, in the ginger beer market here in Austria.
Yeah, it's like the lack of baby food that the US has.
Yeah.
We have that same lack here in ginger beer.
So, maybe there's an entrepreneurial person out there. I had a highlight.
Tell me about it.
You want me to tell you about my highlight?
Please, tell me about your
I
highlight.
just got back from Italy, and it was amazing and wonderful and hot and full of life and laughter and love, and it was
Italy, basically.
Italy, basically. Bella Italia.
Nice. Whose kitchen were you staying in?
I was staying with the wonderful Enrico and the wonderful Francesca, and they have this beautiful apartment in Rome.
Dang.
Francesca's mother I always say Francesca. The R's. Anyway, her mom is always a little proud because she says, my daughter lives in a beautiful apartment with a view of the dome, but it's like way the fuck out there. When you stand on the one balcony in the one corner and point to it, you can see the dome. It's fantastic.
Well, Rome's big.
Rome is huge.
If you can see the dome, you're pretty far downtown.
Yeah, you're not doing too bad. And they are not doing too bad at all. They ran a beautiful, wonderful festival filled with amazing Italian improvisers. I was there with 4 other directors, some of whom you know. Mr. Omar Galvan, and Fenia Ortali, and perhaps you might even know the wonderful Lena Breuer. And
She doesn't sound very Italian.
No, Fenia and Omar are Argentinian.
Oh, that's right. Omar's Argentinian, yeah.
Yeah, as well as Fenia. And they both live in Spain now. And Lena Breuer, the wonderful Lena Breuer from Germany.
Right.
And I got to meet this fantastic fella, Menelaus from Greece. Yes.
No way, really?
And he's like the Greek. He's like the Poseidon of impro. He's just a fantastic fella.
Cool. Poseidon of impro. It was like every idea sinks it.
Oh, he sinks
every idea floats.
Oh man, he floats all the ideas.
Nice.
And then of course the wonderful Martina Pavone, the one Italian, and she's just fantastic as well. Anyway, each of us got a site in which we could create a show. So that's
So not a digital site, an actual physical site.
An actual specific site, and it's a SiteSpecific Show. It's the only one of its kind that I know of. And so we each got a place, and then we created a show in that space. And then on the Saturday night...
Inspired by the space.
Inspired by the space,
Nice.
Inspired by the performers that were
space?
there. My space was this beautiful palazzo. It was a walled-in area with these gorgeous stone steps that would go up to doors and flowers in other doorways. It's a place where people live, but we got to use this coulisse as
But it was
the backdrop.
the courtyard of this palazzo kind of thing, right?
Well, I say palazzo, but it was just a place. It was the Bartoli place. It's just a little square, but you got to it by going down a stone ramp. Everything is stone there. It's this beautiful Middle Ages town that is been living the same way, I think, for...
But so not in Rome?
Not in Rome, no. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we left Rome, and we went 2 hours outside of Rome to the beautiful little town of Tolfa. And this area, there's a volcano there, so there's a lot of hot water springs, this old medieval town called Tolfa. A lot of spaghetti westerns were shot in this area. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, for example. They have a festival every year for street performers, and that is bringing in like 50,000 people for this.
Did you notice much of the drought?
No, where we were there, we didn't notice much of the drought. In fact, I read about the drought on the way back, and all of the Italians were like, "Oh, we'd heard that it was getting bad, but we didn't realize it was that bad." So it was a fairly recent thing, and it's mostly, I guess, in the north. Yeah, yeah, the north is getting hit hard. Yeah,
I see. Really?
Yeah, Milan is getting hit hard.
Ooh, okay. So there was. Did you see the Po in Rome?
We may have gone by. Yeah.
So there was water in it.
Yeah, sure. I think so. We weren't in the city very much at all. We were kind of just on those outskirts. And it was very hot. But it was really wonderful. And the food was fantastic. And all of the performers were great. And my show was called Viva la Vita, Life Hurrah. And it was just a fantastic experience.
Cool.
And I can't recommend it enough to any international or Italian performers.
You ate well, you got a tan, you got paid?
I got paid.
Oh, you got screwed though by Ryanair.
I got screwed
you really
by
got shafted
fucking
by
Ryanair.
them.
Ryanair, you can suck it. Ryanair, I'm calling you out. You got too many places where shit falls down and your lines are like Banana Republic revolutions. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I would gladly pay a few bucks extra if you would get your shit together.
I think your only choice is to fly with another carrier.
Which is exactly what I did. Austrian Airlines was happy to take my 450 euros one way to get, so I could get to my gig with my bags.
And I'm sure Ryanair was happy to keep your 150 euros without having to take you anywhere.
Exactly.
Fuck those guys.
You're cutting into my margins, Ryanair.
So did you actually manage to turn a profit after you bought 2 tickets but only flew once?
Barely.
Right.
What's Augie do?
You doing this?
Yeah. Gonna stick my boy Jules on you, boy. That's right. Right. Left and right. So that was our week, our past times. And now it's all about now and all about you guys. So let's see who we got in the chat. Who's saying hi?
FOC.
Follower
MOCO.
Thank you for being here. Philly Girl 1000. Some folks might remember Philly Girl from previous episodes. Hello. Moko in the house. Excellent. Marcus is here.
Yeah, thanks for finding your way back, Marcus. I was a little bit worried that you might have decided to go out and do something else instead. So, nice of you to go and look for episode number 47/2.
Yeah, that's our math genius over here. Who the hell knows how that happened?
I don't know.
Nobody
I was
knows.
trying to call it 70/2.
70/2. 70s.
Maybe I should have
take two.
worn my glasses when I was typing.
I think we can save that for a little bit. So, hello to all of you, and thank you all for coming in. It Should Be About Something comes to you in 3 parts. We call them chapters.
Wait. I want to know about week's jazz, blues, and tons of dancing children.
Wait, what?
Follow FOC.
Had some jazz
We're really
and
into
blues
short
and tons of
things
dancing
these days, aren't
children.
Jazz and blues and tons of dancing children sounds almost as good as Italy.
We should allow the children to dance. Dance, children. Dance.
Do, 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 do.
Sir, how much children do we need?
I don't know. 18.
Tons.
Well, 12, 6, 12, or 18 if we're doing the blues.
We need 12 bar blues and 2 tons of children. What kind of children? Dancing children.
It was so weird when we the first time we did an improvised, or one of the first times we did an improvised blues with Belush, and he played an 18-bar blues, and we were like,
Belush has
why would you play 18 bars of blues?
Belush plays 13 bar blues. I've known this guy for, I don't know how many times I've gone through it with him. He always...
Like, why would you not play it in 12 bars?
It's the only 11 bar blues that I've ever been able to... I gotta sing!
I can only play it when I've been to the bar for 11 hours.
Jesus. Yeah, true that.
And then then we said, no, please, play it in 12 bars. And he was like, that's so difficult to do. How do you do it?
Just count it, Belush. For a guy who's got such amazing chops.
The Ayatollah of rock and roller, you know?
It is the sweetest thing in the world that he can't play blues. Yeah, you heard that.
I think he's
Yeah.
He's
Calling you out,
He's got,
Carini.
Don't call him out like Ryanair.
Not like Ryanair, but I'm calling you out.
He might charge you $150 and do nothing for it. That's it. That's my Ryanair jingle.
Yeah, that was
Ryanair,
a good
we
one.
charge you money and do nothing for it.
You know, it's not like air travel back in the day. Here's, you know.
Oh, air travel back in the day.
Wait. We got to get back to the home after it because we didn't do the home thing. Yeah, super sexy 70s insertion. Air travel. Did you travel in the
back
air in the 70s?
Yes, I did.
How cool was that?
It was classy.
And you remember it being classy?
Yeah. No, there was people would dress
Yeah.
to fly.
Sure.
It was
Well, we always did that even in the 2000s. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, do you remember smoking on planes?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that too. I remember it just killing me. I as a child, I hated it. My mom's dad, my grandfather, my pal, I used to call him, he would smoke these like cigarillo kind of things.
Cheroots.
And
would it get in your eyes?
And I wanted to hang out with him so bad, but it would just get in my eyes and I couldn't. And I remember getting so frustrated. But then at the same time, they had this den and it always smelled of that smoke. And there was something so safe and warm about it.
Yeah.
It was just that activeness of it and the closing of doors.
The way houses used to smell of ashtrays.
Sure.
Like my dad used to smoke cigars.
Right.
And there was a point there was a point where we were still allowed to smoke cigars on the airplane.
Yeah.
But there was a point where people got annoyed about the cigar smoke smell. And it was about 10 years after that they stopped smoking completely on.
It was the 90s.
airlines,
I think in the US it was like the 90s that was the last smoking
I think
flight.
I remember smoking on an international flight in like the early 90s. That might have been the last time I smoked on a plane.
Anyway, flying in the 70s, even though there was smoking, way cooler than today.
Here's something about smoking on planes. When you were allowed to smoke on the plane, the aviation law was that the air in the aircraft had to be replaced 6 times every hour. Since you are no longer, so every 10 minutes. So since you're no longer allowed to smoke on planes, they are only required to replace the air in the plane twice an hour, so every 30 minutes. So even though there's no more smoking, the quality of the air is no longer as good as it was in the 70s when people were allowed to smoke.
Interesting. That was a sexy 70s insertion.
Ka-doom, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. All right, back to our regularly scheduled
We needed
program.
an outro music for that thing.
We should, yeah. All right, that's our give and go.
Back to our usual programming.
All right, so, we got a new, hello, Valerie.
Valerie,
Hello.
nice to see you.
Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And what we were saying was that It Should Be About Something comes to you in 3 parts. We call them chapters. This is chapter number 1. Chapter number 1!
And Marcus, you said maybe they're napping, and I thought, ooh,
How did he know?
how did he know?
Well, maybe
It's out there.
because it's on the card that, you know.
Oh, it's on the card?
When I
didn't see
make
that.
the stream.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
I see. No, I
On
remember.
napping.
I remember that you make the stream. I just don't ever get round to looking at that shit anymore. You know, because
This is the high quality professionalism that I hope you have come to expect at
man.
It Should Be About Something.
Well, other people were checking out today's card or the stream, like whenever you set that up. I don't know, was it last week or today or?
I thought it was last week. It was today.
It was today, yeah. Yeah, I was making milk. I'm Mr. Mom who makes milk. Two different flavors of milk these days.
You say you milk the cat? Did you milk the cat?
No, I don't milk the cat. I open.
You're making milk. You're making milk.
Yeah,
I've breastfed. I had to actually tape bottles to my chest, but I was breastfeeding.
I make them from a can. Make it from a can with warm water.
I remember, okay, so when you said I make it from a can, I'm just imagining, speaking of a
You have to talk now.
right, so 70-60 insertion. Okay, do you remember those cans? You had the can of oil, and then you had that oil spigot, which had sort of like a puncher, and you go shlunk, and you punched it in the back you punched a little, you put a little air hole, and then you slunk that in, and then you would put the oil in. This is how I'm imagining you making milk for your babies. You just get that can, you just slunk it in there, and then, all right, go for it, babies. Here we go. It's like cast oil.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, that's kind of what it feels like.
Right.
I feel like a mechanic. I feel like one of those dirty old mechanics from the 70s when you could walk into the workshop and he'd be pottering around in the back where all the spare parts are, and he'd come out and be completely drenched in oil and muck.
Yeah.
And you'd say, I want you to fix my car, and he'd be like, just put it over there. And you didn't trust him.
Yeah.
And he didn't look like he was, he didn't trust himself. He was smoking around gasoline. Right?
Oh, it's going to be fine. Yeah, all right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were happy if you got your car back in one piece.
And that's what you look like at 3 o'clock in the morning while making milk for your babies.
That mechanic, that's me.
Right. Yeah, you're the mechanic in the story. And the oil is actually shit.
Now this explains.
It's actually poop.
This explains why my kids are always like wide-eyed.
Yeah.
Almost hysterical when I do that, when I feed them.
Yeah. On napping and the best place to nap. We're going to talk about napping, people.
Right.
So, first of all, I guess our first question to you guys is, I want to know about where is the best place to nap? Where is your favorite place to nap? Now, while those folks are answering that question, I'm going to ask you, have you thought about napping much? Because I have thought about it a lot. I'm a big napper.
I do think about napping quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think about napping a lot, particularly these days. Like most of the time, I could lay my head on any object,
Right.
and sleep.
Now, I would put it to you that napping can come in a couple of forms. There's that organic napping where you've got the time and space to just, if I'm going to lay down and fall asleep, I'm just going to do it.
Beautiful memories.
Right? And then you've got the organized napping where I've got a certain amount of time where I can
also
lay down.
Beautiful memories.
Absolutely. You know what the thing is I realized as I became an adult was that all the times as a child that I didn't want to take naps, I want all of those times back now. Like as much as I didn't want to nap as a kid, I want all of those chances back now.
Right.
So that I can nap as much as possible.
But I think it's unfair to make children, to force children to nap.
I agree.
Because children shouldn't nap. Like life is so short when you're a kid. There's no point. There's no reason to make children nap.
I hear you.
Like most of the time, I was just lying there waiting to be allowed out of my room again.
Agreed. But there were some times I kind of understood nap time as just a regenerative time. And sometimes you napped, sometimes you just kind of laid there. I was I was the smart kid, so I got to do what I wanted during nap time. And often I would go to the library and, kind of
No, I'm talking about
chill.
Like forced nap time. I don't think my parents actually had nap time that much. But if I'd go to my friend Kevin's place on an afternoon, I'm talking, we were small kids, like 7, 8. Okay?
Right, yeah. But you're in school.
But there was nap time.
Right.
Oh, no. Okay, so maybe this is different in the United States. You'd be at school and take naps at school?
You would have a nap time at school sometimes.
No, we only had that in kindergarten. Yeah. And I hated it in kindergarten too. So that was mandatory in kindergarten. I thought that sucked as well.
Yeah.
But his mom would have a mandatory nap time during the afternoon, probably because she wanted to drink vodka. Because she wanted to do, like adult things.
Yeah, sure. All right, kids, let's play a game. This is a game called Close Your Eyes.
Yeah, so we had to go and be in the room for an hour and a half or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, it's an eternity as a child.
Yeah, but you didn't like fuck around?
Well, we weren't allowed out of the room, and we wanted to be out of the room because it was the height of summer.
Right. Yeah. Dude. Anyway, nap times, okay, as a kid, but now as an adult,
want them all back. Yes,
want
I
them
want
all
them
back.
now.
Want all the nap times back. Now, I am a huge proponent of what I call, and you know this of me, of taking what I call my 21, in which I nap. But my naps they're very specific. So I'm just gonna tell you my process and be into it or not. My process is this. I know when my evening activities are going to have to start. So I time when I'm gonna do this. I will drink some sort of caffeine.
You mean Red Bull?
Yes, for me it's Red Bull. I will drink a Red Bull. And then I'll drink the Red Bull, and then I will lay down and hit the timer for 21 minutes.
It's a nice, satisfying sound.
It was a very satisfying sound. Those 21 minutes I've calculated because of our cycles. And our cycles generally, as humans go, our sleep cycles, go between 19 and 22 minutes in rounds of 19 to 22 minutes.
Okay. Interesting.
And so for me, it's 21 minutes. And the 21 minutes includes hitting the timer. I set the timer down. And then I just lay down in a flat on my back pose, you know, a shavasana kind of thing if you're a yoga type. Or sometimes I'll just, with my...
Hands up or hands down?
Sometimes hands up, sometimes hands down. Sometimes I'll put them on my hip bones. I'll often put something on my eyes because I'm fairly light sensitive. And so if I can't be in a dark room, I like to roll up something soft that will, be an eye mask. And then I just lay there. While I'm laying there, I'll often let the ideas and thoughts and the monkey brain just sort of chatter away at me. Sometimes I'll start thinking about a circle just to kind of concentrate myself. And then at some point, it just sort of fades away. And then I get into that stasis between asleep and awake, where there's sometimes a lot of visuals, sometimes not. I'm not quite asleep, but I'm not quite awake. And now, after doing this a number of times, I'll wake up just before the alarm goes off. Sometimes I'll come, there are days that I'll just fall asleep, and there are days where I never get into anything and then it goes. Some days I'll wake up out of it and I've got 7 minutes left. But in general, that's the thing.
But what's the point of taking the caffeine first?
Now, I'm glad you asked that, because caffeine is an interesting molecule. What it actually does is not give you energy. It dampens the sensors that tell you that you're tired.
Yeah.
When you first ingest it, it takes about 20 minutes to get to that point. During those 20 minutes, you'll actually lose energy. You'll start to feel quite tired because those sensors are trying to transmit whatever's transmitting, and they're kind of fighting against it. And then the caffeine says, no, you're not going to transmit that you're tired anymore. And it takes about 20 minutes. So by drinking the caffeine and then doing the laying down of whatever your thing is, and you can experiment with it. Sometimes try 22, try 19, try something for a while and see what your timing is. But 21 is my favorite. And then those 20 minutes are over, and when you wake up out of it, you get this rush of caffeine, of that feeling of I'm not tired, plus of having gone through that reset in your brain. Edison famously would allow himself to sleep by leaving a spoon in his hand.
That was Van Gogh.
Well, I guess it gets accredited to a lot of different people. And then when that brain reset comes,
you drop the spoon,
and wake you up. It's all the same effect. And by going in that sort of 20-minute cycle, you get the maximum of that regenerative phase.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Anyway, that's my diatribe
Nice.
on naps. That's my process. I encourage anybody to try it out. It's fantastic.
Okay, interesting.
Tell me about a place that you have napped where it was just really satisfying. Like, what was a favorite? Do you have a memory of a nap experience?
One of the most satisfying naps that I've had recently was falling asleep on the sofa. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning after I'd been up for 3 hours with August. And it was taxing on both of us. Like, we both weren't happy.
Right.
Okay? I wasn't happy because he wouldn't sleep, and he wasn't happy because he couldn't sleep. And then around 7 o'clock in the morning, we both fell asleep, and he's like on my lap, and he's completely spaced out, and I'm completely spaced out, and we slept like that for about 45 minutes, hour. One of the best sleeps I've had in recent weeks. And maybe one of the best sleeps he's had in recent weeks. I don't know. He might not remember it. I'll ask him.
I like it.
But naps that I remember, I don't know. I think what I used to sell books door to door, and I remember when it was sunny, sleeping in the car.
Oh, right. Okay, so taking a break and
rolling the seat back and then sleeping in the car with the sun in my face, kind of thing. Yeah, that was nice.
I have some pretty fantastic memories of taking naps in that dappled shade of sunlight in Mallorca at every single finca. There was a time where there were several years
Drink
in a row
all day. Start in the early morning.
Well, you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
Back to this again.
And we would rent this finca for a whole bunch of friends and go on a friend's vacation. And we always found a fantastic place, and there was always a sofa.
Well, we found a fantastic place we always found a fantastic place after we figured out how to find a fantastic place. I think the first place we went to was not so fantastic.
Well, the first place we were meant to go to was fantastic.
That's right.
But then it never happened because of the whole craziness.
It was a complete fucking fuck up. Yeah.
Man, that was a wild time. But yeah, so those places have had some, and I have very fond memories of some wonderful, satisfying naps in my grandma's house. There was some really relaxed napping at my dad's mom's house. There was a dog when I was a very young kid. Lizzie was its name. And I remember sleeping with that dog. With some nice naps.
Yeah, we used to have lots of cats when I was a kid, and the dogs were always outdoor dogs, and
Right.
the cats were always indoor cats. And it was nice to find a cat in summer because they'd be so hot that they'd actually feel a little bit moist.
Okay. You're
Like,
looking for moist pussycats?
You'd find a cat rolled up like this, and then
Okay.
you'd kind of turn them over on their side, and they'd
Yeah.
open up.
yeah.
And you've got that
The really
that
sweaty fur.
really sweaty
yeah.
fur.
It's all in. It's
That's kind of nice, right?
Well, they were moist because they were sweaty. Yeah.
And then you kind of stick your face in that. It's all soft and warm.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I remember taking a couple of naps like that, as long as the cat would let me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that. I totally get
Lying
that.
with sleeping with a cat right on your face. I used to have a cat who would wake me up in the morning by licking my face and she'd sleep on my chest, and when it was time when she decided it was time for me to feed her, she'd lick my nose till I get up.
Well, you know,
Satisfying nap for her.
I feel like I
guess.
might want to try that. I might try that the next
Get a
time I'm
pussy to
hungry.
lick your nose. Yeah, it's a nice thought. Okay, moving on.
Let's see what people are saying in the chat here. In a hammock on a rooftop, Philly Girl 1000. Yeah, that's a good place for a nap right there. Right after food, early afternoon, in the shade with a little breeze, that is prime nap time. Into it. The only napper in the house is the cat, and she has a secret rotation of sleeping spots planned. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the other thing about napping is apparently sleep is important for people. And they're finding that you'll live longer if you sleep more.
But you'll also live less
And
because you'll experience less.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And that's the thing as a kid, right? Like, I totally understand little kids when they're fighting sleep, you know, because it's like, I don't want to miss anything.
I went to see some Asimov film. You know that story that Asimov wrote about they miniaturized people and injected them into someone's bloodstream.
Fantastic Voyage.
I went to see that movie.
Wait a second, that's
You have to speak afterwards. That movie must have been shot in the 70s?
Oh,
60s?
Late 60s, early 70s.
I went to see it.
Maybe somebody can figure that out.
Rather I tried to go and see it.
Right.
It was on the entire film in this tiny little movie theater in Cologne. And I was working in Cologne at the time. And my then girlfriend and I went to go and see it. And it was basically, I think it was a 12 or 13 hour movie. And for the first hour and a half, we were kind of watching the movie. And the rest of the time, it was just like napping.
Right.
And finding positions to nap in the movie theater, like feet up on the row in front of you, lying down on the seat next to you, heads against each other, lying in each other's lap, one sleeping, one watching.
Right.
And at 7 o'clock when the movie was over, we were both sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't see that movie. It was that whole movie. I have no recollection of what the movie looked like. I only have recollections of waking up from nap time and trying to watch the movie and then falling asleep again. So it was a series of kind of long naps.
I had a similar experience at the Burgtheater, watching all of the Rosenkrieg Stücke in a row, except there was napping and sex involved, and finding different places to watch from different. It was all day. It was like.
But you were having sex, or they were having? Who was having sex?
Well, okay, maybe it wasn't sex, but it was, a lot of schmoozing. Finding an empty loge because just the whole thing was. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You're just in the middle of Richard III, and you've already seen. It was. You know
how it ends, so you're like, you're getting your dick sucked somewhere. Nice. So,
this is what's happening on episode 70, people.
How do we get from napping to this?
Well, I think we did it.
You said having sex somewhere in the book.
I think we did it, folks. I think we got it done.
Done everything about napping?
We've done everything about napping. It's time to move on.
Right?
Yeah. We're moving on to. Wait. Let's have a slurpers.
Nice little napping thing there.
Slurp.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to chapter 2. Started. Chapter 2.
Well, yeah, doesn't matter. We're fine.
Yeah. We're now in chapter 2. Did anybody notice what chapter 2 is about?
On leading and following.
On leading and following.
Yeah, I remember to look at the screen and read.
Yeah, good work. So, on leading and following, here's my first question. Are you more of a leader or are you more of a follower? Just for your own thing. Like if you had to pick one of the things in the dichotomy, where do you land on that? Let's go with that first. Do you find yourself...
No, I want to start somewhere else, actually. Because
Okay.
I read something. This is a good question. I'll come back to it.
Sure.
I read something the other day, and it had to do with what we consider genius, and the way we think of genius as leading us in thought and leading us in deeds. But anthropological studies have shown that genius feeds on group energy.
Absolutely.
There's no such thing as the single genius who comes up with the brilliant ideas. Right?
No.
That's a myth that we've developed as a culture or as a society.
And it's only a recent. It's also a recent one.
It's a very recent myth.
Because it used to be that genius wasn't in you. You were a vessel for it.
Yes, but it still makes you as a singular person the vessel for it. But it doesn't matter. But the thing is that the group. The group is the vessel and also the generator.
Absolutely.
For the geniusness.
Absolutely, it's what Close would call, Harold has entered the room. It's when it's the group think, it's the group mind, it's that emergence.
Yes.
Of
the thing
what is
that
there.
is more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're equating that with leading
and following. So we consider geniuses the leaders in our society or in our thinking or our doing or whatever, right?
Right. Where in fact very often they are just
they're just the visible interface for whatever leading is happening as a group effort.
Exactly. Right. Which is brings me to something that reminds me totally of this wonderful story, which may be apocryphal, but I love it. In Canada, they have a very long tradition of theater awards for the nation. It's a national awards, the Sterling Awards. I might be wrong on that. It could only be for Alberta. I'm not sure. Canadian friends, you can please help me out. But I think it is for everything. In any case, one year they decided to have an award for Best Improviser. And the fellow that won the award went up and said, "Thank you very much. I, however, will not be able to accept this award, for had I been the best improviser, you wouldn't have known it. You wouldn't have noticed it. If I was really doing my job well, then you wouldn't have seen..."
Because my job is to make my colleagues look like geniuses.
Exactly. And that always stuck with me. Then after that year, the next year, they got rid of the award.
Of course, because they didn't want some improviser coming and fucking with their shit.
Right. Back when I heard the story, I was thinking, oh, that's really nice of them. And now you're probably closer to what their motivations were. In any case, I like the story because it leads now to the other thing about leading and following for me, but we learn in improvising of, the idea of following the follower. We lead the leader, we follow the follower. That being said, one often has to lead and often one has to follow.
It always depends on what kind of group dynamic you're in.
Absolutely. So I want to get back to the question, would you land more on the side of, being more comfortable leading, or do you land on the end of being more comfortable following?
Both.
Absolutely. You find yourself in the middle. Okay.
I think basically the dynamic is who I work with better as a wingman and who works better with me as a wingman. Right? I think leading is not necessarily something that you choose to do. It's something that the other people in the room choose for you.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that is an aspect that not a lot of people share or maybe grasp. There's a lot of leading that happens that is complicit. It's chosen for you. I equate it with a lot of times people think of me as being somebody that loves the spotlight because I'm often in the spotlight. But often
He does love the spotlight.
well, I endure the spotlight. I can enjoy the spotlight. I am happy to take the spotlight when it needs to be
Enduring
taken.
the spotlight. Really, he said those words. I want that printed on a T-shirt. And I want to.
All kidding aside.
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying.
I once got asked to teach a class, a workshop, and from this wonderful woman, Nadine Antla, and she said, I want you to talk about, taking the focus and then giving the focus. And because, that's something that I think you're really good at. And so I called it von Mauerblümchen to Rampensau und zurück. And the idea of, when you have the focus, you have to take it. If you're given the lead, if the moment is given, you are the dude, then take the lead, take the fucking lead, as the wonderful Patty Styles once said. Right. So when you're there, you do that. But then there are other times when it's time to follow, and then you got to follow and just do the thing. Just follow the thing. In any case, I think very often when you find yourself in that position, or others find you in that position, they often think it's because you want to be there. But it's very often, I believe, as you say, it's given to you. And maybe that's exactly what Shakespeare meant in Malvolio's speech of greatness. Some are born to greatness, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Yeah. I do also think that there's people, and this is maybe a little bit of a tangent, but like what you were describing of people seeing you as taking the lead on something. Usually the people who criticize you and others for taking the lead on something are absolutely incapable of taking the lead on anything. But they just don't like the fact that you're doing it.
Yeah. So the only time I was ever fired from a band, the only time I was ever fired from a band, my role was singer and frontman.
Right.
And there was a fella who was the band leader. And he wanted to be the frontman, but was incapable of doing that. And
hated no showmanship.
And hated the fact that we're confused, like felt threatened in his status, even though I was just a hired hand and was constantly, it does not matter.
Right.
So yeah, I think taking the lead when it's presented is a skill. What would you say is an important skill when you're leading?
Well, basically, I think because leading is such, it is taking the essence of what the group has decided is the direction, and finding a way for the group to do that.
Right.
So it's not deciding on we're doing this. It's kind of picking up the pieces and putting them together and saying this is my version of the puzzle we've created, and so we can do this.
Right. So
and
is resoluteness important, or is it more important to be able to change your mind? If you're a leader, you're going to be expected to take responsibility for your choice.
It always depends on who you're dealing with.
Agreed.
It depends on who you're dealing with in the group. So if the best wingman in the group says, "Don't like that choice," then that's a really good reason to rethink what the choice that you're making or the offer that you're making. If the person who always complains about everything and never has any input is saying, "Don't like that," it's like, well, fine, fuck you. We're going ahead with what I just said.
Never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Or never take criticism from someone who is incapable of giving any input.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Same
Same
thing,
thing,
different words.
different words.
Same thing, more poorly said. So, when I think of leaders, I often, or of leading, and this is hooking exactly into what you were just saying, I often think of those first 4 seasons of West Wing and what Sorkin was doing with the Martin Sheen character and the way, you know, that character would invite all of these different opinions and synthesize them and then stand to the decision but be open to the new information. And because you do have to have, if you are the leader, you know, it's not just you're the mouthpiece, you're also having to take responsibility. And that can be very scary, I think, for a lot of people. You know, that terrible passive-aggressive phrase, wenn du das für richtig hältst.
Yeah. Yeah.
When, if you think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then you have to stand to it. Now, same question. What's important to be a follower?
I think the most important quality, if you have selected a leader, or you're a member of the group that has selected a leader, and the leader has made some kind of decision, that you give that idea a chance before you shoot it down. Like you could even think it's a bad idea, but it might just be a bad idea on paper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, there's no point in deciding that you're going to be a B man or a C man in a group, and then shooting down the idea that the group decides on. Right?
Yeah.
No matter whatever that emergence is, right? So you have to give the idea that emerges the chance of proving itself.
You have to let the leader lead.
Yes.
You have to, you know, be an arm of that, allow that to happen. I always go back to The Simpsons and that moment of you the boss. You know that moment that I'm talking about?
No.
So there's this wonderful moment in The Simpsons where Homer is in a cherry picker, one of those trucks that has an arm and a basket so you can get up high, and he's stuck in that, and the cherry picker is rolling down a hill toward a bridge that is a drawbridge. And little Lisa runs into the control room of the drawbridge, and there's this old fat black dude just hanging out there, and little Lisa comes running and says, quick, you gotta bring the drawbridge up. And the old dude looks at her and goes, you the boss. And just does it. And I love it so much because
she commands so much authority.
Or just you know, like
it's quite obvious from her whole persona that she knows what the fuck's going on.
You the boss. And I always use this as a great metaphor for improv, you know, or when you're working collaboratively with anybody, is, you know, they're giving you the offer, and it doesn't matter who it is or what they are. It's just this, you know, silly little girl who's coming in and just screaming or whatever. But dude's all like, yep, all right, you the boss, let's do that. And I think that's an important thing as a follower to...
Yeah, well, if you've decided, if that's the position you're going to put yourself in, then, yeah.
The follower legitimizes. There's another quick little thought about this. There's this wonderful YouTube video. It's a music festival, and you see the side of a hill from rather far away, and a dude comes into the middle of this field and starts dancing, and he's dancing like a hippie. You know how hippies dance? You know why they wave their hands in front of their face? It's to keep the music out of it, man. Oh, the music's in my face. And this dude is like dancing crazy. And there's a bunch of people kind of looking at crazy dude. Then, after a few seconds, a little while, Another person comes and just starts dancing with them. And now no longer is it a crazy dude. It's a thing. It's a couple of people having fun. Shortly after that, a third one comes. And now it's no longer, it's a party. Then a fourth one comes and now it's a movement.
Okay, so you have to post this video to the feed.
I got to find this video. And what I love about this is, and when I talk to my improv students, and for me, it's always that sort of metaphor for life. The first one up, the leader, isn't necessarily the bravest. They're often just a little crazy. They might have a good idea, they might have some inspiration, they might just want to have stage time, but they're a little crazy and they are nothing until the second person, who I believe is actually the bravest, although it's pretty easy because all they have to do is say yes to this, but it's the second person that legitimizes. It's the second person that says, that's not a crazy person.
Maybe the second person who comes in is the leader.
Well,
because the second person who comes in decides, this is what we're doing.
You can't have a leader without a follower. And so the second person isn't the leader. The second person is the follower, but it's the follower that creates the leader. If you are the father,
right, I was saying, okay.
and have a son and name them the same, you're not a senior until you have a junior. You're not a leader until there's a follower. You're not a leader. You're just a crazy person in the desert until somebody says, yeah, I'll follow you in the magic shoe, and we'll create a religion out of it.
Okay.
I think there's something there. There's probably people who have thought about this way more than I have and are smarter about it. But that's my idea of that.
Okay, so at least that's a model, right? That we can consider, right? In Germany, we're not allowed to talk about yes.
The answer is crystal clear.
Follower of clay.
Follower of clay is a follower. Of course, that's right. Follower. Follow the leader that is not led on. Marcus coming up with the heavy wordplay.
It's a typical Marcus comment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a little clever.
Right.
It's a little clever dick.
I mean, Marcus is so good at that kind of comment that he didn't even have to think about it. That just flowed out of him, right?
Yeah.
Marcus, we love you. You are a conduit for that type of comment. It makes me think, there's, and this is really in the best way possible. And you might even have, I think you might have been to Freiburg. Freiburg has this wonderful cathedral.
Yeah.
And the rain spigots at the top of the cathedral.
Right.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Freiburg, so
Okay.
did I say yes to that?
The rain spigots at the top of the Freiburg Cathedral are these figures, and either the rain is pouring out of someone who's vomiting, or someone's asshole, or someone's armpit, or someone's nose, or demon's armpit.
Right.
Conduits for whatever's out there, right?
For the spew.
Fantastic. Chat disconnected. Reconnected. Marcus.
That might be because of my phone, because
Because Marcus is not really from around that area, but I think he might have been to Freiburg.
Oh, he is. This is supposed to be connected to my phone, but I think my phone is. We're having all the technical difficulties tonight. Thanks for your patience, folks. So, leading and following is a thing to do. The follow the follower model, I think, is an interesting one. And I think probably that is constantly what's happening. It's just that sometimes it goes slower because at one point you have to have there is impulse, there is that thing, and so it's always that conversation, that give and take, and the more malleable we are in giving up the reins and taking the reins, the better. Like, as a director, to know when it's time to let go and stop leading and allow whatever's happening to happen, right? I think in those positions, those are places that it gets really important to have that skill.
Marcus says he's actually from there.
Yeah.
I thought you're from a little bit more east.
No, I thought you knew that. That's why the whole time I'm going.
No, I thought he's more east. I thought he's more close to Munich.
No.
Right.
And actually, Marcus has a birthday on Saturday. I know that. Yeah. All right. I think we did it. We're going to move on.
Yeah, I think
we're going to take a little tiny, short little break, and this is a word to our sponsors.
That guy fashion is kind of
That is interesting insult. I think you should use that. You look like Mr. Bean from Dude, on your face, you look like Mr. Bean.
From the front.
And now, back to the show. Hey, everybody. That was the quickest of the breaks. So, before we move on, we'd like to take a quick moment. First of all, to thank everybody who has stuck around and stuck with us for all this time, and to thank all of the people who have dipped in and dipped out, and to thank all of the people that watched us one time, hit subscribe, and then fucked off forevermore.
And to thank all the people who watch the show from the shadows and never dip in and never mention their names or subscribe or anything.
The lurkin' slurpers out
slurpers.
there. The lurky slurpers. The slurpers.
Lurker slurpers.
That's why we came up with slurpers. They were the slurping lurkers. We just said slurpers. In any case, we want to thank all of you so very much.
That history.
We've been doing this since 2020.
June of.
Was it June?
I think so. Maybe July. One of those J
but it's
months.
gone 2 years. In those 2 years, we've done 70 episodes.
Nuts.
72.472.
747/2. And that's a throwback to the 70s.
All right, let's do it.
So, do you remember the 747 70s?
The airplane?
The airplane.
The one that had
like the advertising.
With the bar in it, and you could go upstairs. It was like a fucking steamship in the air.
Steamship in the air.
It was the future.
And the advertising that would come on when you went to the movies, there'd be like these 12 and 13 minute advertising reels for international air travel, where you'd see the airport and there'd be and all the destinations would come out on that flippy chart thing that they used to have.
Yeah.
All the flipping. You go Shanghai. No, you wouldn't fly to Shanghai in the 70s. You'd fly to Hong Kong and Los Angeles and London and
everything in the 70s feels like it was brown. There was a lot of brown in the 70s.
It was a lot of orange
and flat orange.
But all my air travel advertising memories from the 70s are light blue. That is like Pan-American light blue.
Right. But I mean the interiors, the textures, the life, not just the advertising, but just life in the 70s.
Was a flat orange brown, like kind of like poop.
It was like flat orange and brown. And there was, there were some greens, but there was a lot of flat orange and brown.
Some yellows.
Yeah.
Some yellows, yeah.
The sepia coloring of memory.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we've been doing it for 70 episodes, and this is amazing, and we thank everybody so much for sticking with us. We're going to take a summer break.
Of course we're going to take a summer break. Everybody takes a summer break. It's the professional thing to do.
It is the professional thing to do. And in that summer break, we're going to do lots of different stuff, just not with you guys.
Like napping, drinking, lying in the sun.
But we'll talk more about this later.
Snuggling with cats.
Is there anything else we need to talk about? We just need to make sure that that got out there before the stream broke again.
Has the stream broken?
No, it's okay.
I think the stream's still working.
I think the stream's still working. But we are going to take a summer break, and I think 70 is a nice round number to do it.
I think so too.
All right.
The big 7-0.
Then screw it. Let's move on to our third and final chapter, Chapter 3. On what makes you feel old.
Talking about things and comparing them to the 70s. That's what makes me feel old.
Yeah. That'll make you feel old. Has anybody ever surred you and made you feel old?
Oh, yeah.
Who surred you and made you feel old? Or did they zeets you and make you feel old?
It's like in recent years, like in the last 5 years, I've got more misters and sirs than at any time ever before that.
Yeah.
Like people I consider who are adult people, I would not address.
Do you zeets people a lot?
No.
Abe. But there are
sort
people
of
that you
like professionally most of the time. I doots them, right?
Yeah. We're talking about the formal and the informal.
So would you address them formally or would you address them?
Address in German.
But even in English, there's a way of doing that. But it's more obvious in German.
Yeah. It's built into the language.
So at least most of the time professionally, I don't do that.
Right.
And as far as I understand the etiquette, if I, as the older person, establish that I'm not going to address anybody formally, then it's okay for the younger person to accept that they can address me informally.
Right. And if they still do it...
If they still address me formally, that kind of rides me a little bit.
Yeah, I bet. I get that.
But, they can't help it. But
because they're stupid. Because kids are stupid.
Okay, but here's the etiquette thing.
Etiquette? I think he's meaning etiquette.
Etiquette. If you are in a private or professional situation with a young woman.
Hello.
How is that supposed to work according to the etiquette?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I was surprised to learn
that
according to Hoyle,
which is a it's a Super 76. I remember having that little blue book, according to Hoyle, it had the thing, and according to Hoyle was in fact it was like a compendium of rules for games. And so Michael's using it colloquially to talk about social etiquette, which he is calling etiquette.
Which is how you pronounce it in German, I've just realized. Anyway, or at least that's how I pronounce it in German. Follow the follower, you dickhead.
I am. Keep going. So anyway, according to Hoyle, what do they say?
If you're with a young woman, the young woman
has to offer
to you.
Interesting.
Shouldn't we address each other informally?
Interesting. That's a knigge kind of thing.
That's a knigge thing, yeah.
A knigge.
Where were we?
Knigge is the Hoyle.
My body makes me feel old. Oh, fuck, yes, it does, doesn't it? Jesus Christ.
Was it a Louis C.K. thing where he's like, the doctor? I went to the doctor and the doc said, any day after 40 without pain is a good day.
Yeah. But that's a bad doctor, actually.
Yeah.
There's so many bad doctors out there. I mean,
that makes me feel old. Is Michael complaining about the bad doctors out there?
The bad doctors, how many bad doctors I've been to, right? Because I go to doctors all the time. I remember a doctor once saying to me, this must have been like just before I turned 40. And she was like, just get used to it. Like, it's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of doctor you need
less in
to
your
not
life.
follow.
Yeah.
You
What's
need
up
less
with
of
that?
those doctors in your life, because there are actually doctors out there who'll go, okay, we'll fix that.
Yeah.
Here's a solution to that problem.
Yeah.
What makes me feel old right now is when
Yeah.
I'm on my knees playing with one of my kids, and then I pick them up and stand up, and my knees and my leg muscles do this.
Okay, so I think I need a new mattress, because what's making me feel old right now is waking up in the morning. And I have been waking up in the morning with this weird thing in my back, and I noticed while I was away in Italy, even though I it was fine, but it wasn't like, oh, these are the most amazing beds.
It was better.
I woke up without that feeling.
Wow.
And so there's something going on with my sleep thing at home, and I definitely need to change this. And that's the only thing that's really making me feel old right now, except for this sinking feeling. Did we talk about this idea of the Overton window of age?
Yes.
Right? Is that. And it didn't happen to me in Italy at all, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm wondering when that's going to happen. I'm also wondering when I'm actually going to need glasses. I should probably go and get my eyes checked again.
You need glasses right now. I've told you that several times.
I went and got them checked not even a long time ago.
That's I told you when you told me that. He comes to me. This palooka comes to me and says, I went to see an eye doctor and he told me I don't need eyeglasses. And I said, change your eye doctor. You need eyeglasses.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
It's like,
I think...
It's not a pandemic. I found a doctor who tells me it's not a pandemic.
No.
I don't need eyeglasses. I found a doctor who gave me a clear pass.
There was a machine and everything. I did the whole thing.
Oh, God. I remember something that I did a couple of years ago. I went to one of those people who check your the electrical reaction in your muscle tension and blah blah blah, to find out what kind of digestion type you are. The blah blah blah, right?
How many thetans you have in your body?
This weird stuff, right? She'd been suggested to me by a dear friend of mine, and I went there, and she's doing this whole thing, and I'm kind of like, I think this might be bullshit.
You think?
And at some point, I look at the machine that she's using.
It's not plugged in.
And it's not plugged in.
It's not plugged in.
And I said to her,
oh, dang.
Isn't that plug? And like, it's not the wall socket. It's like some other plug. It's some other wire that had an open thing, right? I was like, shouldn't that be plugged into there? And she's like, oh no, that's okay. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I just let it slide.
Yeah. What are
She
you?
was a nutritionist.
Oh, was she a nutritionist or was she a dietitian?
Probably a little bit of both. And a lot of esoterics.
One gets a license, the other does not.
Right. Oh, I see. Well, I think she probably didn't have a license.
Yeah.
But she still charged me like $170 for whatever she did.
I mean, I think there are some alternative medicine choices out there that can be very helpful, but there is an alternative to alternative medicine.
It's called actual medicine.
It's called actual medicine.
But then, you will find an actual doctor who tell you that you don't need glasses. So,
He had a machine!
It wasn't plugged in.
Finally got to it. Okay, what else makes you feel old?
A follower of Clay says watching colonoscopy ratings makes me feel old too.
Is there a website for that? There's not a lot of things still right now that make me feel old. My favorite one that was supposed to make me feel old was, you know, you go to a party, you start talking about something, you reference something, and I get that people don't get references. I used to get up on my high horse about it and be like, oh, you know, read a fucking book or whatever. But then after a while, I, you know, felt like, okay, there's so much stuff out there. No one's going to get to it all. If I reference something that you don't know, I will just encourage you to put it on your list. And I will encourage people, if they don't have a list, to have a list. Because, you know, it's the Empfehlungen, the recommendations from people that we trust, the aggregators that we know, that, you know, we should follow because it's going to help you out. You're going to get good Einflüsse. In any case, the thing that would drive me crazy is you go to a party and you talk to somebody, you reference something that they don't know, and then they would say,
see, this
in
makes
their
me feel
defense,
old because I don't go to parties anymore.
Well, yeah. You used to sneak out of the house to go to parties, and now we sneak out of parties to get back home. But I would mention something, and then the person, in their defense of not knowing it, would say something like, oh, when was that? Geez, I wasn't even born then. And I wasn't even born then is, for me, the worst. And I'd be like, gee, yeah, okay, fine, I get it, but you weren't born during the French Revolution, and you know what that, oh, you don't know what that was. You're just an idiot. I see. Okay, fine.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's supposed to whether that should make you feel old. It makes me feel like I'm in the vicinity of stupid people.
Well, yes, but it also means that you have aged out of the Overton window of reference. So your reference, which, you know, your references which get fairly cemented between, you know, in your teenagers and so, right. And what's, you know, there are plenty of movies from the 80s and 90s that you will remember that are not part of the popular tapestry. They're not on that list, but they were big movies at the time. There was a movie, do you remember the movie Vision Quest with Matthew Modine?
I remember the title, but I didn't see the movie.
Right. That was a huge movie for me.
Yeah.
Lost to history.
Right.
Nobody cares about it. The only reason I'm thinking about it was because I was watching Stranger Things and Matthew Modine was in it. I was like, right. Oh yeah, Vision Quest. That was an amazing movie. Okay. Nobody's going to know this movie. Just like there are movies from the 40s and 50s or songs. There are songs from the 50s that you still haven't heard.
Yes.
That were huge.
Yes.
Huge. Big.
I ordered a Louis Primo CD.
Prima
CD, and I got it today, and I listened to it with the kids, and we were dancing, and after about 5 songs, we all agreed, and my kids don't talk yet, that every song sounds exactly the same as the last one.
Yeah, well, that was his deal.
And it's all that jazzy stuff, right? Like the
that was his
changes.
thing.
And if you were born in that time, you would recognize each one of those songs as an individual, different sounding song.
Yeah, beziehungsweise you just knew that was their thing. I mean, there was so many early.
Yeah, but you have to be in that.
Sure,
thing,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
If you were born in the 70s, you listen to music in the 70s or the 80s. And that kind of explains to me, you know, when my grandmother listened to the music that I listened to when I was a kid.
It all sounds terrible.
It all sounds the same.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, it doesn't. Every song is absolutely different from the one before.
Like you would complain about electronic music, you know, or techno in the early 2000s. You
mean me?
Yeah, I mean you.
I still do.
Yeah, you still do. I try to educate them sometimes. I try to open them up to new things. It's a lifelong process. It's a
lifelong process for you, and it is going to be a lifelong process for you because it's going to take all your life, and it's going to be fruitless.
And you're never going to get rid of me. Those referencing things that people don't get. should probably, I keep burping, should probably make you feel old. But I just realized, okay, we're past that Overton window. Anyway, I hate it when you use the excuse, I wasn't born then. You just sound like an idiot. It's a stupid excuse. Please never use, anybody ever use that. And if somebody does use it and you're a friend and you can be like, you know, if they're close enough that you can say you got something between your teeth, tell them that too, because that's something they can change really fast.
That's not a knife.
A fantastic reference that a ton of people you're going to meet in your everyday life are never going to understand. It's not part of the vocabulary.
This is a knife.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of time spent in relationships.
This is true. There is a lot of time spent in relationships. Like most of my adult life, I have spent in relationships.
There's a lot of time spent in those relationships, creating a baseline of vocabulary.
Yes.
Educating the other to your references.
Yes.
And them to you, and theirs to you.
So that's how you develop a language.
Yeah, yeah. Because those references are shorthand to a lot of things, to intimacy or to, understanding of situation, context, and shit. Okay. Other things that make you feel old. I really don't feel it. I used to love the question, when did you realize you were an adult? Was there a moment where you felt, I feel like an adult, which is different to feeling old. Feeling old can happen at every time when you're 34 and your back hurts and you think, now I'm old.
So, actually,
or when hangovers start coming more and more and you think, back in my 20s I never had a hangover.
Smoke less.
Exactly.
That's my solution, smoke less.
And then
hangovers come from smoking, not from drinking.
Well, clear liquids. Clear alcohol.
The thing is, actually, I don't really feel old.
This is the thing.
I feel young. What makes me feel old the most
is the reaction.
Is seeing how old I am compared to
photos from when you were younger.
To young people who feel the same way about their life, and knowing that I have 30 years left and they have my whole lifetime left. That makes me feel old.
Right. See, now, I have witnessed people in that position, the younger position, trying to use that as a bargaining chip against older people, basically saying, see how cool I am, and I'm 20 years younger than you, and I'm as cool as you are.
Yeah.
So I'm better than you. I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen in, I'm 4 years younger than you, and you're hanging out with me. I must be way cooler than you ever were. And so it's sort of that thing, but I've never thought of it as a loss of potential. I enjoy meeting people who are younger than me, who share my ethos or my aesthetic or are on the same path. And I will always treat them as equals. But I think I do understand that there is a worth to that perspective that they will never have, no matter how much of an equal you think of them as.
No matter how much you treat them as an equal, they do not consider themselves an equal, because
I'm not talking about how they consider.
At you,
yes.
They see the experience that they don't have.
I suppose. That's not exactly what I meant, but yes, that would be from the other side. I wasn't thinking about their Empfindung, I was thinking just about mine. But yeah, there is that dynamic. I mean, when we were younger, we met people that were role models for us.
Sure.
It was the same thing.
Yeah.
These were people who were open to the experience of me and you because we shared this ethos, this aesthetic, or whatever it was.
Let us hang out with them, or just hang
Right,
out with us.
because there was some sort of affinity there, and that affinity is that birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
I still think that now, because you've been on the path longer, there's still going to be younger people that figure shit out way earlier than you did.
Absolutely.
There's always going to be somebody who's smarter, and there's always going to be somebody
I've also started
who's more
figuring
talented.
out why, how some people manage to figure things out so much earlier. It's
amazing to me.
It's like family history. Okay. If you grow up in a household that supports certain types of thought, certain types of actions, certain types of reactions, certain types of openness to things, and provides you with the kind of nurturing that gives you a base that allows you to recognize potential in what's around you.
Yeah.
You are way ahead
Yeah.
of people your own age who don't have that.
Yeah.
So, and so this kind of means if you're a musician and you come from a family of musicians,
An Umfeld.
your chances of becoming a successful musician
Are higher
are way better
because you are
than if you are the first
introduced to
person
possibilities.
out of your family to become a musician.
Exactly. Well,
You
I
learn
think
to
that's the
play
definition.
instrument later. You have no knowledge of it's.
That's the definition of privilege. That's
Well, that's not privilege. It's not privilege.
It is when it's compared to somebody who doesn't have that, and so it is a privilege. But the privilege, because people connotate privilege with motivation, but it's not. It's just, if I were to have been born at a different time, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I had when blah, 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 blah. It's always about the context into which you were born. In any case, yes, you're absolutely right. If you are in an umfeld that has possibilities and that you can be given the opportunity and to know that this thing exists, that it's a possibility, that is very important.
If you want to be a lawyer and you're
Right.
born into a family of composers, your chances of becoming like a really, really successful lawyer
Are smaller.
are much smaller
Yeah.
than someone who comes from a family of lawyers.
Sure. So now, the thing that makes me, which should be making you feel old, that thing that, when I was younger, people that were older than me felt so out of reach, interminably out of reach, so much cooler, understanding so many things. And now that I'm getting older and I'm reading about like people from that time, I'm like, what? They were only 5 years older than me?
Yeah.
How the fuck does that happen? How did they get to that point of adulthood? And this is where what I meant with when did you feel like you were an adult?
Right.
People who felt like adults. And I'm like, what? They were only 3, 6, 7 years older than me? They're only 10 years older than me now.
Were they in the same
Yeah, I'm talking
genre?
about actors or
Actors,
musicians.
okay.
So many
Right.
of those musicians, like we're 27. I saw like it's Otis Redding. He's 25 years old in this concert. He looks like a 40-year-old man, and he dies 2 years later.
Right. But people did look older back then.
Agreed, which is a weird thing which you can't get out of you.
Thing, right? He was like,
I know, but the gravitas and the kid who in the that wonderful movie about the Irish band, the Commitments.
Commitments, yeah.
The Commitments. That kid who was the singer, he was 16. He was 16, and he had the voice of a 40-year-old, blues singer, and brought such gravitas to this thing. They were so out of reach. And then when I hear, she was just 25 at that time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? So There's always going to be somebody that's better than you, and they're always going to be younger than you. All of the people who are older than you are getting less and less. There's always going to be more people that are younger than you.
There's also always going to be more people that are dead
Than alive.
than alive.
Agreed. Well, we might...
Kind of comforting in
always,
a way,
yeah.
actually.
So I think I want to get back real quick to this question of was there a moment, and can you remember a moment where you felt like,
I'm an adult now?
I'm an adult now?
Nah.
I've got 2 stories quickly to tell. The first one is not mine. It's Gail's, Gail Gatterborg.
Mm-hmm.
Our lovely colleague Gail, who died a few years ago. It's 1969. She's finished college. She's moved to New York, and she's just gotten her first job playing with La Mama in the LES.
Yeah.
And she's sitting with her friend Carol. I believe it was Carol. I might have gotten that name wrong. At a soda fountain. And they're like 22, 23 years old. And Carol orders a second sundae. And Gail tells the story. She says, at that moment, I realized, of course, I can order a second sundae if I want. There's nobody telling me, no, you can't, you only get one or whatever. There's no one saying you've got to take a nap.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lovely moment to realize I'm an adult. I can order a second sundae. Mine was, I had gone to a cafe. I was by myself. I was 15, 16. I'd gotten left in the city. And I went to this cafe, and it was in this old industrial building. And I remember the chunky blondness of the bricks against the newly put in windows. And there was an old wrought iron radiator next to the table that I was sitting at. And I'd ordered a tea, and it came in an impossibly large mug. And there was a dude playing acoustic guitar and singing on a small riser kind of stage. And I was writing in a book, and I looked out at the cold windiness of Portland, Maine, and the multicolored leaves passing by in the wind and the rain that was on the window pane. And the dude was doing this amazing epic version of I Am the Walrus on solo acoustic guitar, but killing it, sounding like a fucking orchestra. And I remember exactly at that moment thinking, I have chosen to be here. I feel like I am a part of something bigger than myself. I'm an adult. And that was a really cool moment.
You were a kid back then.
I was a super kid though.
I was
wrong.
You were 19 or 20.
I was just saying I was 15 or 16.
Oh,
but yeah. But yeah, I was completely wrong, because then you had that moment again and again and again. And I would ask this question, when were you an adult? And I don't know if I'll ever have gotten there yet, but
yeah,
anyway.
I don't think I'm certainly not going to ever, I don't think I'm ever going to think of myself as an adult the same way that I think of
as other people have.
Other people as adults. Whether they're like my parents or other people's parents, or I don't know, school principals or teachers, or
they were also adult. But it's nice to know that they were all just making it up as they went along as well, and it was just the emergence. Nobody knows. Are we frozen again?
No, we're not. It's working. I kind of.
Okay, good. Well,
this is frozen.
This is frozen. Well, then what we need to do is we need to wrap this up. We had some technical
we've given it our
difficulties.
best.
We have done indeed. That was chapter 3. We're taking a summer break.
We are.
We have no idea when we will return. What we're planning.
We do.
Okay.
I'm going to venture.
All right.
Okay. I'd like to say that we're going to try and be back in the first half of October.
Yeah.
Ideally, I'd like to be back in the first week of October, because it's the Moment Festival, and we have this crazy idea that we think might fly.
Right.
So we're going to try and make that happen.
Let's under-promise and over.
So I'm not going to say anything more about it.
Exactly. But we're looking at October, basically, is what we're saying.
So we're gonna take the rest of July, August and September off.
That's right. Just like your kids. We're gonna take
August and September off.
August and September have told us take a break.
Yeah. Don't
Time
work,
to nap.
Don't work during these.
We're gonna ball up our fists and we're gonna
naps.
take a nap.
Yeah.
And Augie and Ember, they know what's up. So that's what's happening.
Cool.
That was episode 70, buddy. We did it.
It was. I think best is bad ever.
This was really, despite all of it.
Despite the fact that I was almost about to throw my computer on the floor.
Again.
No, it was the first time.
We did it.
We did.
Best is bad ever.
It came out pretty well. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
47/2. I think from now on, we should never have regular numbers again.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's going to happen. All right, let's say goodnight to all the folks. We don't know what's happening because this is already broken down. To Marcus and to Follower of Clay.
Swinger
to
Club
Moko,
NRC.
Swinger Club NRC, sliding in like nobody's business. Philly Girl 1000, Valerie, and Moko. And all the rest of the folks who didn't even make it, go to sleep, sleep well, sleep tight, enjoy the rest of your July and all of your August and September.
Sleep for like 95 days.
Stick around in the ISBAZ HQ.
Yeah.
If anybody needs anything, drop a line. If anybody's got anything, drop a line. Stay close.
Post some photographs of mushrooms and cats.
How was
and
your
what
summer
you're doing
holidays?
this summer?
Yeah, what's your summer holiday? Just post them in there. Let's
Nice. Yes.
let's do some remote posts.
Remote post. Remote posting.
The most remote post.
The most in a posting. Toasting your posting.
Toast your post. Toast the
Post
post.
your toast to the remote
Coast to
posting post.
Coast to coast with the posts of
And
the
the most.
toast.
Coast to coast with a post that roasts the most.
Coast to coast with the most toast posts.
And on that note,
We're saying goodnight. But remember, and this is important, no matter
what it was about.
No matter what the subject,
Topic.
no matter the topic,
What it was about.
even if you disagree,
You can always hug it out.
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 Best is best ever.
Best is best ever.
Big summer hugs, everybody. Thank you very much. Hug it out. Going swimming,
Drinking beer in the sun.
taking a run in the morning,
Riding a motorcycle.
hanging out at the pool,
Peeing in the pool.
peeing into the pool,
Barbecuing.
making cocktails,
You say peeing into the pool. I like that.
There's a difference.
I want to watch somebody peeing into the pool.
Michael has just discovered a new fetish.
Italy.
Oh, anywhere away.
Swimming pools and barbecues.
Jumping into the lake before breakfast.
That coolness when you come from outside in the summer into a really nicely cooled room.
Taking just the right amount of ecstasy and walking all through the city.
And on that note, have a nice summer.
Happy summer, everybody. Bye-bye. And be good.